me today and talk on clinically relevant research for the benefit of public health. So let's start with the objectives of my talk today. I'll be talking about the traditional type of research which we have been doing so far, but how can we improve it by conducting different types of research projects based maybe on health informatics, maybe on health economics, maybe quality improvement research projects and the innovative research projects. And I'll also be talking about how to measure the impact of our research. So what is actually research? Research is a curiosity. We want to know about something and then we do it as a systematic investigation with a purpose, and ultimate aim is to gain a knowledge in that specific area. So there are different definitions, but as per HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, this is the definition given for research. Now, purpose of research, if we are doing research with a specific purpose, it could be to establish facts, gather information, find answers to some query, get a detailed scientific study of some specific problem, develop a knowledge, or prove a theory, or maybe just an exploratory study to inform further action to be taken in that particular area. But when we talk about medical research, we talk about something to prevent a disease, to cure a disease, or to treat a disease or a human condition. And we may talk about how the trends are of that particular disease. We may look for what are the risk factors causing this particular disease. How can we make the lives of our patients better? And also we can talk about how to reduce the cost of the treatment and how to advance the life of the patient. So this is how we talk about, or we think about, the purpose of the medical research. But now, so for this purpose, we had ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, was looking at medical research issues. Now there is expansion of the medical research to health research, and that's how the Department of Health Research has come in, which not only takes care of not only the medical but around medical as well. So how the treatments or public health interventions, how are the outcomes, how are the patterns of care of a particular center or particular disease or a particular department, how much costs are associated with its use, and how can we improve certain drugs. So the horizon of health research is much wider than what it was for the medical research. And another growing area is functional abilities. So what are the cognitive status of a particular disease? What is the communication level? So these are also answered with proposals on health research. If you look at the benefits of the health research, you can see not only the patient and public is going to be benefited by a health research, but their institutions, the industry, foundations, government, the caregivers and the families and the health professionals, all entire horizon is benefited by a health research. And if we write a proposal, research proposal, and we are sending it to the funding agencies, they have certain criteria of scoring our funding proposal, of a research proposal. So based on those scores, they fund it or they reject the proposal. And if we look at the scoring system, they look at the quality of the proposal, the importance, so how much it is going to impact the society. That is very important, because they measure the impact. They see if your research proposal is focused on a very small issue, the chances are very little. But if it is based on a issue which is going to benefit the entire country, then they take it as a priority. So the impact has to be very important to get your proposal funded. Now again, this is a scoring system from BIRAC. So the industry sector which funds the research proposals also has got certain scoring points. And if you see, the technical viability has the maximum scoring point, but equally is the unmet need and the value proposition. So how much it is going to affect the society is a major concern. This is international funding agency AO. So they also measure the strategic impact, the degree of innovation, the potential in that area, is it feasible, sustainable, and what is the quality of the team. So these are the points how the funders look at our research proposal. Now our research proposals could be based on application like pure research or could be applied research. If it is pure research, it's only in the lab. But if we look at applied research, it's more generalized to the society. And there are different objectives. It could be explanatory, correlational, descriptive, or exploratory type of research. And whatever information we want to sort from this research proposal, it may range from quantitative research to qualitative. So although we have been doing quantitative research till now a lot, but now it's seen that in certain type of research proposals, a qualitative research is also a good study. So what level of health research are we looking at? We have to see, we want to do a lab research or a translational research from bed to bedside, or we want to do a population based study. So based upon what type of research we want to carry, we can apply to different funding sources as well. So the common basic research involves the animal cell culture. All lab work is there, biochemistry labs, genetic labs. So all that type of studies which are being done in these labs is the basic research, which may be only theoretical as in bioinformatics, or it could be applied as in all these departments. But the idea behind this biomedical research is also to generate new knowledge or technology. The other one is the translational research, where you develop what level of particular, what dosage of particular drug can be given, what. So there are certain examples how to transfer the research from bed to bedside. So if you want to see why cancer cells, certain cancer cells are effective, and what drug is effective, and then you want to initiate a targeted therapy, then you may opt for a translational research. If you want to see why some patients get benefited, why some not, in certain diseases, you can opt for a translational research. Now coming to the clinical research, most of the medical research are in these areas where the labs are not there. So people usually undertake these type of research, which are epidemiological research, and they may be based on disease trends and risk factors or outcomes, or they may see which one is more. So they could be experimental studies where they want to see which drug is better, or they could be a particular drug which could be tried in phase 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, or they could be public health research studies. Now what is gaining popularity these days is the environmental health and the health policy and management. So these two are the more recent ones. Now we have talked about the primary research, but there are secondary research generated from the data we have collected. So from the medical records and the registries, we can have larger data, as we see that big data studies are going on these days. So bigger centers and all, if bigger centers combine, so national data, so that becomes a huge data. And if a research is done on this data, enormous data, then it would be of benefit to the country as well. So looking at the traditional research, where we had the observational studies, maybe descriptive or cohort, case control or cross-sectional type of analytical studies, or the randomized or non-randomized experimental studies. Now, if we just leave them behind, what beyond this traditional research we have which can be funded? So we'll be looking into that, but looking at the topics which have been funded by the funding agencies and because of their impact to the society, was this list. So this was the usual list of ICMR on the priority topics. Now, based on these, we can say that the research could be targeted to nutrition, lifestyle, new technologies, and so forth. So many areas are there, and now there is a recent area, COVID-19. So you can have different areas according to your query, which area you want to engage yourself. But it should be from the very beginning, whatever research you plan, you should always know the step next to it. So if you have done part 1 of the study, you should have the part 2 ready. So once you do and follow part 1, 2, 3, 4, then you are progressing in the same area, and ultimately you would be a award winner for a Nobel Prize as well. So you have to think a long-term strategy to find the solution to a problem, and then in that area you can initiate your first research as well. Now, research, when you're talking about the traditional research and the priority areas, what you have been doing in your research proposals was study the magnitude of the problem, prevalence studies, risk factors, burden of diseases, etiology, and the morbidity, disability, mortality, or survival. So this was the traditional part. And if we look at the life expectancy of India, so if you see with the data generated at a national level, you see that it's about less than 70 years in India, and whereas in Japan it's more than 80 years. So when you get national data, you get to know what is the status globally, where does your country stand globally. Similarly, here, if you see in the low income countries, you see that there is death rate, the mortality among children less than 5 year children is more in the low income country, whereas the mortality in the high income country is more in the high income countries. So more than 70 years of age is the mortality in the developed countries. Similarly, you can look at the top 10 causes of death in various areas, and you can see in the timeline how the pattern has changed. Now coming to beyond the traditional research. So when you're talking about, beyond the traditional research, you're talking about the innovation and the market. So what you see today, most of the funding agencies fund you with, when you have a proposal with the industry. So they want industry to be part of your research proposal, so that whatever research uh, conclusion is there, that can be directly taken to the industry, and then as a commercial level it can be beneficial for the whole entire society. The other thing is big data we talked about. So we have enormous population, and the data generated by this population can give to huge data, and which can be studied for the mechanism of intervention, for the environmental effect on the population, and so forth. And this is how we are going to talk about more on the health research rather than just on the medical research. If you look at the roadmap to a clinically relevant health research, so priorities have been set in where innovation has got the highest priority, then comes the wellness, then comes the prevention, and then comes the quality of life of a particular diseased patients. So that is what new can you achieve, how can you improve the longevity and the wellness, how can you prevent, and how can you, whatever the society has diseased patient, so how are they, their quality of life is. So if we take up wellness, so there are 7-8 factors which are controlling the wellness, and of these anything can be chosen to be your study, maybe social issues, maybe emotional issues, or the spiritual, how yoga and meditation is going to help your wellness, how a morning walk is going to, how lifestyle changes are going to impact. So there are some certain examples how the integration of physical, mental, spiritual well-being can apply to holistic integration of wellness. So there are some examples of the research proposals being undertaken for wellness studies. Now coming to the health section, as I was talking about, there could be research proposals on health service planning. So based upon the epidemiology and the performance indicators, you can have health intelligence system set in, and that can help in health service providing. Or for the overall benefit or improvement in the health, you can have, think of research proposals where with the support of the community, so there has to be partnership, and the community has to be part of your uh, team, and then you educate them, empower them, and then you assess the impact on the health of your society. So health impact assessment is another area which is growing, and you can have your proposals on a priority basis funded by the uh, funding agencies, and also that is actually going to make an impact, and it would be relevant for your for the society. Then there can be studies on health protection. So you can see, monitor the health of the society, certain areas, and then you can see what policies you can form, and with those policies, how can you improve the health, and what is the health economics status. So these are studies which can be planned. So basically, you have to identify the problem. So once you have identified, you want to work in this area, then you have to think whatever disease you have taken, it has actually a high disease burden. So if it is a high disease burden, your small step towards improving it will make an impact on the society. If it is a disease which is not which is a very small disease burden, and your small step will not improve, so choose a study area where the disease or burden is high, and then ask with your colleagues and see whether this question you are putting is important for the society or not. So give it a thought, a lot of thought on this area, and see how your research can impact the society. So this, if you plan the impact beforehand, that you want it to be really fruitful for the society, that can help you refine your proposal, and then finally you design your proposal. So there are certain landmarks how the research impact is studied. So there are certain frameworks for that, and this is a list of research impact frameworks. If you look at payback framework, research impact framework, and Canada is the emerging with these type of frameworks the most. Although there is in Australia, UK as well, and US as well, but Canada, I found that has made the highest uh, in this area. They are working the most. So this was a systematic review of all the frameworks, and of these frameworks, they found that the payback, the research impact framework, and the higher studies research, health studies research impact framework were the best. So just to look at what is the impact model. So the first one, the payback framework, where you identify your issue, a problem is identified, and then you put inputs to the research, develop the process, and then disseminate it, and send, look at the secondary outputs, how the policy can be framed, and publicize it, and then see the finally outcome. So from the issue to the resolving of the problem, entire process is showcased in the payback research impact framework. Similarly, in this is also from Canada. So identification to improvement in well-being, and so the impact on the government, the community, the industry, the innovators, the public, and the healthcare services. So everything is measured. So this is Canadian Health Study Research Impact Framework. So they say there are 5 areas where the research impacts. Either it's the primary research related, so you get data and you share this data with the people, and then you collaborate with other academics, and you you publish your results. So this is the primary research related. So publication, conferences attending, so this all comes in that. Then this other area where it can impact is on policy making. So you can also measure the level of policy impact. So it helps in policy making, but then you can also see what impact has the policy made. Then there is the quality of care and delivery. So health and health systems, here comes the role of quality. So, and the economics, health economics. So cost effectiveness and health related in society. So that means that there is equity in the society. So every poor and rich patient is given the same sort of health care. So this all comes in the health related. And the fifth is the economics. So you are making health economics is a burning topic, and any proposal is beneficial in this area. So when you are looking at the impact, you also look at the short-term result, the mid-term result, and the long-term result. So short-term, we all know, we all have been working on publications. Yes, there was a research proposal, and this is the publication, and I presented this year in the conference, and a PhD has been given on this. So this is short-term impact on the society. Mid-term is the policy, and here we have to look at more. So these are the 3 which are focused on long-term impact. And how can we generate long-term impact? By quality of care and service delivery, by evidence-based practice, by cost effectiveness, by resource allocation. So if we look at these are the things which will have a heavy impact and a long-term impact on the society. So economic and health literacy. Now, if we look at different areas, so it helps in capacity building. So the researchers, they get their salary, they do their PhD, so and the center is developed, new equipment because of the research proposal. So at a glance, you can see that they are capacity building. Advancing knowledge, yes, the entire teams working towards a specific area, which is helping in advancing the knowledge. Decision making, because you know that this particular disease is being treated or managed or effectively managed by through your research, so that is helping in informed decision making. And the impact, so because of that research, the longevity of the patients can be improved, and the society also uh, is impacted. But if it is a commercial angle also, you can look at, then there is IP generated was there, and with that IP there is income generated, and the product is commercialized. So this is research fish framework to study the impact. So if you see what are the areas in toto, so there could be training tools as a research output, there could be software generated, IP, operational framework, or some research paper, some technology or methodology, entire data set which can be used as a biobank survey and for surveys. So you have large amount of data here, and you have assays and reagents and highly trained scientists, and the websites and new media or blogs. So this is how the research impacts the society in these different ways. Again, looking at the Canadian report, they found the health improving projects for 82% were on quality of care. So if we target ourselves also in India also, if we start looking at proposals that impact the society, there should be something on quality of care. So that is the area we should target on. And partnership with industry. Again, 74% of the researchers in the Canadian uh, research of the 571 research projects, and about 88 million investment were on with industry as partner. So that way you can have a good impact on the society as well. So the health informatics research, why should we take? Because it's less expensive, we generate large data sets, it is effective. Now, if we look at the traditional research, we have a controlled experimental design, and we cannot have in the controlled experimental design, we can't have large data sets. But if we take health informatics, we can have large data sets, and that can help us to study the effectiveness. Through the traditional research, we were looking at the efficacy of a particular drug, but now here we see how effective it is in the society. And also with this data, other third party can also re-examine our data and answer new questions quickly and inexpensively. But there are certain limitations. The scientific control in these huge data studies is not as much as it is in the traditional studies, and also obtaining individual consent is very difficult if we are talking about such a large number of studies population. Then the research can also be on the health services. So if we look at health services, there could be study on the healthcare cost and use. And the other thing I have highlighted here is can be on the quality improvement studies. So this is very close to my heart, and I would be focusing more on this as well. But yes, with new electronic database at all the universities and all the medical centers, we have a good amount of data generated, and this could be made use of for the larger studies. Regarding health economics, we can choose a particular treatment, how cost effective is this particular treatment, whether it is so we can talk about the dailies with this treatment methodology, how early can the person return back to work, or we can also look at certain equipment, how that equipment has made life easy. So how much of steps it has, like if we talk about the 3D technologies, so the how we can have better enhanced output with less number of visits of the patient. So this is how we can talk in terms of health economics. And these studies can also be in the same way as the traditional systematic review, meta-analysis, clinical trials. And so something which can be based on traditional, incorporating the quality initiatives would be the best result. So if we want to define the quality improvement studies, these are the interventions aimed to redesign the healthcare system. And with these studies, the idea is that individual patient level we have done. From here, we have to take it to the implementation at the system level. So we have to make entire change in the larger population from a small research proposal. If you want to compare it with the traditional research and the quality improvement research, the goal of both is obtain new knowledge. But here, the goal is to get the best practice done and achieve the result with the best practice. So you are thinking this is the result, new knowledge is there. With this new knowledge, you can formulate a best practice and make it operationalized. So there it is the static protocol, but here the protocol keeps changing as there may be bias in the research studies. But you know of these biases and you can identify them, and one by one you can control these, stabilize these bias to get a quality improvement in the society. So this is something better than the traditional research. So when you're thinking, reconcile the traditional research with quality improvement agenda. So in every research proposal, you think what can improve the patient outcome. So with that in mind, you have to list the problem and deploy the interventions so that you get a better result. So basically, in intersection of the research and the quality improvement will give you the QI research. Now, this is something different in a QI research. You have to plan first, plan, do, study, and act. So this is a PDSA type of research. And the examples for this are reduction of clinic no-shows and adherence to best practice. As he said, you have to think of a issue, think of the solution, make it the best practice, then implement it, get the data, see what is remaining, assess it again, and then implement it again. So this way, but again, you need to have a consent and the guidelines for such type of study. So if you see, the other guidelines for the traditional research are here, but for the quality improvement studies, you need to have a Squire guidelines. Again, they can be observational studies, or they could be qualitative studies, or systematic review, meta-analysis, or the economical analysis type of research studies. But PICO is the same. You have to identify a population where you want to implement it. The intervention you have to plan. What is the control? The control here is different. In the traditional studies, you had a different group of control, but here the control is before and after. So in these quality research, there was something before and there is something in the same population. After the intervention, there is the after research. So before and after is the comparison here, and then the outcome. So now when we look at the QI research proposals, there are different methods. There are different type of methods ranging from 5 whys and root cause analysis methods. And we'll be talking about them one by one. So this is the fishtail methodology, where you think this is the problem and which has to be solved. This material can be used, this method can be used, how this can be measured, how the environment can affect, how the personnel and the machines can affect. So this is the cause, and finally the effect resolution. The 5 why analysis, that means first question should lead to next question. So this is how 5 whys are led by one why each. So why is this happening? Then based on that, so this is how the 5 why analysis is done. Then again, this is the tree analysis, where you see the different roots causing, these are the causes and this is the effect. And again, fault tree analysis, again, if there is a fire, what can cause this fire, and how, what are the sub steps. So you go back and get the causes, and what level can you limit these causes, you can find there. Barrier analysis, so this is how you are taking care of the bias, I said. So you have started your implementation and you found that this is causing some problem here, so you control that bias issue, that issue is solved, then again you proceed, then you find some other barrier, or you can take care of that. So it is a step ladder type of study. And the final one is the Six Sigma study, where you recognize, define, measure, analyze, improve, and then finally control the study. So this is also very important, and sometimes a combination of two. So like the root cause analysis and Six Sigma can be combined together. This is a mapping. So if you talk about the mapping, so if you found that the issue was delay, so patient were taking 8 to 12 weeks, and you want to decrease this waiting time of the patient from appointment, from first visit to the final date of treatment. So you found that these are the steps the patient is going through. You can see where you can mark in yellow, yes, these steps can be omitted. So this step, if you omit, you get a limited step mapping, and then this can be implemented. And this is what is required, I think, in most of the centers to be implemented to improve. And just with a study, you can find the result, which is getting not only the benefit to you, to the society, to the university, to the policymakers, and this is going to have a huge relevance in the society. Now, when we look at the data generated from the quality studies, there is the aggregate data in the traditional research, but here, because you are progressively watching and collecting data, so this is a continuous type of data in the quality studies. So there is different pattern of data generated by a quality study. Also, when you look at the traditional studies, there is performance of one group to another, whereas in the quality studies, there is before and after intervention. So you have to record that. So some examples again of the QI research. So you can see the flow. As I said, the patient has come, how much time of, how can you reduce the waiting time? How can you reduce the clinic no-shows? How can you see the effect of best practices? So find an issue, see what practice should be implemented to resolve that issue, and then this way you will have best practices, and you can see the impact of those best practices in your institute as well. And if you see that there are certain sectors which are not able to take care of the healthcare facility, how can you make this approachable to all the types of society? So that can be taken up as a QI research as well. So if I took this project, this is a publication in BMJ, a recent publication. They looked at clinic no-show. So this is how the fishtail cause and effect diagram is. This is the no-show rate, and from the environment to method to people and equipment, how they are affecting this can be charted, and then you can think where are the areas where you want to have your action. So in phase 1, you wanted to act here, you got your result. Phase 2, you wanted to interfere here and see the result, and finally your result. And this is your data generated. Finally, you could achieve what you. So this is impacting the society by the end of your result. Now the domains of healthcare quality research projects, where all you can implement these type of research proposals. So it could be on the patient safety, on the effectiveness. They have to be patient centered. How timely, so time can be taken care of, as we discussed in a previous example. How, the efficiency and the equity. So if we talk about all these, some examples to open up suggestions how you can take these up further. So if you want to talk on patient safety, you can talk on, have your proposal on number of patients or percentage of patients, surgical patients with complications or infection. This could be an easy study. Rates at which patients fall and incur injury during a hospital stay, or how many departments are using electronic system for entering medication, what intervention can be done to improve that, and then you can have your entire proposal ready in that phase. Then mortality rates, what are different mortality rates and how you can improve them. Effectiveness, so how many percent of patients receiving a particular hospital care for a specific condition, you can see and measure the effectiveness of that particular uh, care in that area. Then you can also see patient centeredness measures, how the patients report on the service received from the hospital. Or you can also see provision of care instructions upon hospital discharge. So anything you can pick up and see what is the result. So you get the data, you design a best practice, and then implement it and find the final result. So these could be based on either the structure, so the healthcare which is providing facilities, is it capable of doing this much of work or not for the patients. So you can have ratio of providers to patients, you can have nurse to patient staff ratios, you can have number of beds and physician ratio, and how they are helping this much, and what you can do, what how do, if you increase this much number, what is the effect. Similarly, you can look at the process measures. So certain intervention you have started in your hospital or university for patients, and how it is that, suppose mammography is a screening program, for all. So how it has impacted the society, that can be measured as a process measure. Then is the outcome measure. So what is the impact of the healthcare service on the patients? So what has how it has impacted on the mortality or the morbidity. Now the source for this quality measures is mostly administrative, if you want to work on the process, and if you want to work on the medical records, or you can take care of the medical records and go for surveys. So these are all, and Dr. Sandeep from physiology department is the source of all this information. So you can make use of those data sets and give a result, quality initiative result for the improvement of the university. So looking at the patient safety measures and effectiveness measures, we have already talked about it, but we here want to say that we can have certain plans as well based on patient centered best practices, and that can help us improve the quality again. So, but what we need to ask ourselves is, whatever measurement we are doing, is it good? As we do for traditional research, same has to be implemented here also. So are these measures good? Are these measures appropriate, and are going to measure what we wanted to? So valid, appropriate, good. Uh, that has to be kept in mind. Now coming to the last part is the innovative research. So with this data of our university, suppose we have a lot of data from Dr. Sandeep, and we can take engineers, so we can collaborate with our engineering colleagues and find a solution based on artificial intelligence or machine learning, how we can incorporate those into our patients well-being, and those type of innovative research is very high priority research. Just to look at the innovations of 2020 which have impacted the society at large. So something like cancer diagnosing artificial intelligence. So you don't need to do anything biopsy also, but with a look at it, artificial intelligence can uh, find that yes, it is a high probability cancer. Or supply of medicines using drone, a digital heart, 3D heart digitalized, a more diverse global biobank. So we can have that. Then we can have virtual reality, big data, wearable devices, stem cell cure, ultrasound, very small, which can be mobile ultrasound, and Walmartification of healthcare. So healthcare can, you can have, think of a large, huge market where anybody can go and at very low cost can get anything what they want. So these are some of the advances or innovation of the 2020. So to conclude, medical research helps to find health stats, mortality, morbidity, and this data can be for local planning or for national planning or even for global planning. We have to look at evidence-based practice. We have to look at new inventions, and whatever program we are implementing, we have to evaluate the effectiveness of the program. Rest are the traditional ones which can continue. And with this, I think I end.
Thank you,
Knowledge
Dr.
is a
Divya.
passion. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Divya, presenting a very unique type of presentation, which was much required for our residents,
Yeah.
and it was also knowledgeful for us as well. So
Thank you.
I'm waiting for the questions.
Yes,
You
please.
can type your questions on chat on your right side of your screen. There is chat box. You can click chat, and when the chat opens, you can type your questions till the questions are coming. My few questions are to Professor Divya Mehrotra, and these questions are just to help the residents. They are
Yes.
not to help me, but these questions are very common questions. You know that in our MD program, there is one
Yes.
thesis, and you have to, each student had to write a thesis, do some research work. For the research work, they are having only 12 months, even of course around 12 months. So in that brief period, what should do they do to have the good research, quality research, and useful research?
I think they can team up with any department, look up a small issue instead of building up entire bigger problem. Look for small issues, and I would recommend that they should take up quality research. Much needed. What is the waiting time? Talk to the patient. What is the waiting time? How much time they take? So just getting that data could be part of their research, and with this data the seniors can form the best practices to be implemented, and the second year, next year, other student can take up what that intervention has made a difference. I think that way
You
that
have
will be the best
given
outcome.
one good example. In some departments, I have seen that some head of departments are having one particular area, and they every year they give some addition of research to that particular area. By that, one particular area is taken care of by that department. So
That is
whether
the best practice. That is the best practice of that department. You are focused from the very beginning, and you know how to step by step go ahead in your path.
So by that they can aid to the quality of the department research, and
Yes.
in that brief period they can have little research because that is possible in 12 months. In 12
Yes.
months everything is not
Very
possible.
short, very short research proposal should be for the residents, so that they get an idea how to conduct a research, and uh, that research, whatever small research topic they have chosen, should have relevance for the society.
One more problem they are facing, if you have any solution, what happens whenever their research project is, our research question is small, and especially the sample size is small, then they face a lot of problem during the examination and during the review. Most of the guide and other persons involved in that, they say your sample size is low. Why so? They are unable to understand that during MD, it is difficult to have a huge sample size. What is your suggestion?
The research proposal, whatever small step you are taking into account in your proposal, should be properly designed. From the very beginning, you have to analyze what is the PICO and what is the sample size required to get a result which is significant for the society, for the question. for the research question. So that designing of the research proposal has to be conducted in a best way, and our main aim is to teach or train our students in research methodology, not that we want them to have a entire change in the society at the that very research proposal. So there, the idea there is to train them in research, to generate them how to develop a research proposal, so that they can move ahead later in their life in the same field with better confidence. So training is the best part, and the question should be small, which is feasible, which can be undertaken. But the research sample size, that has to be thought of in the very beginning when the study is planned. So whatever significant research sample size is required, that has to be taken. Then they will not have any problem. But if they take a research proposal with 10 in this study group, 10 in that group, then definitely there will be an issue.
Since you are also Dean Quality and Planning, one more question to you. Most of the research which was planned by the residents before COVID times, and after the COVID has come, now the wards are not full, and
Yes.
it's difficult
This
to
is,
get the clinical
yes,
material. Then how
yes,
to proceed with their thesis, because
yes,
the last date for thesis submission is very near.
yes. That's why I thought that this is the right time to initiate quality thinking time. So this is the thinking time where we don't need the patient actually. Just think what are the steps required, and the for this. So think of an issue and think of the process required, and maybe you can have a qualitative research, as we said, root cause analysis. So these type of researches can be undertaken even in the absence of actual patients, because we all know what are the areas where quality is is required, improvement is required. So maybe these type of things. Otherwise, the data, secondary research is always a possibility. The data generated from patient when the patients were coming. I
So
understand
whatever data they have already collected, that will
they can
suffice for their thesis.
they can make use of that data to plan their study. That's what we are doing in our unit as well. So whatever patient CT scans we had last few years, we are making use of that data to do planning studies. So that is how I think, because in absence of patients, we have to think of other ways of research.
So I find no questions in the chat box. Yeah, yeah. Dr. Ritu Tiwari has asked one thing. Please tell us
Yes.
Six Sigma study tools and its significance. I
Yes,
think
I'm
good
opening
question.
that slide.
Yeah, because at that time our residents were not knowing how to find the slides. They were not able to pin their slides. Uh, because of that, they miss it. Six Sigma.
Yes. So
Yeah,
Six Sigma, I have one more here, if I can
yeah,
open this slide.
it is here.
Yeah. So if you see, the lean method is the PDSA, plan, do, act. And this is the Six Sigma, which has, uh, if you see here, it needs you to recognize the problem, define the problem, measure the problem. So you know the problem is big. Then you analyze the problem. So what are the factors which are causing this type of issue? So you analyze, and once you analyze, you put your best practice here, and then see how it has improved the setting.
Very nice. And I do not
Yeah.
find any
So
other
these are
question.
all different things. Yeah, I took a topic which was path changing, because nobody usually talks on QI research, and I thought it is time to actually sensitize people to take up QI projects. So usually everyone is involved in traditional type of research projects, but it's time we should start thinking, and I think it's the best time to think how to initiate QI projects. So we have a lot of potential in our university. Students should just observe particular area, they will find a problem. With that problem, they have to come up with a solution, and to come up from one part of the problem to the effect, you have to think. So like this, you have to think what all can bring in changes and where should you intervene to act to get that change. So I think this is the best time for
So
all this.
thank you very much, Professor Divya Mehrotra, for taking out your time, busy schedule, and making this lecture possible. And I will make one more request to you.
Thank you.
If you do not have any problem, you can share your
Yes.
slides to my mail so that they can be used as a reference for future
Yes.
presentations or future thinking. Because what we do every end of every month,
Yes.
I have to frame some MCQs for their test. So if they have learned this, so that will help us.
Okay.
And thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
do.
A kind